Buenas noches. Welcome, bienvenidos, mi gente. Welcome to the Summer Writing Program staff reading for Archive. Archive, after all, the 50th Summer Writing Program on this earth, in this timeline. In other timelines, there are 0 summer writing programs, or millions of summer writing programs. And then there's one in which there's 4. And we're going to have 9 readers, a mix of staff and volunteers. Holla back. Before summer writing program starts, we have a little orientation, and I say to the group of people who have accepted all the various jobs, Swanee and I get them all together in a room and we say, okay, the thing is, this is sort of a job, but really it's more like a caper, and pulling it off each year is its own set of adventures and improvisations. And I just want to say right here now and for the archive that I'm deeply grateful to all the people who have stepped up into that role to help us pull off this caper, the 50th. So deep bows and gratitude and applause for the Summer Writing Program staff. Which is to say thanks to Rachel and Isaac and Jason and Charlie and Hunter and Caleb and Ben and Bo and Eric. Also thanks to Katie, who won't be able to read tonight, but we're thinking of you. And Bridget, who also cannot read tonight because they're pouring drinks. Mixologists on Wednesday night. Thinking also of our comrades of a different summer and hoping against hope, perhaps, for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in the land of Gaza. And welcome again to everyone here in this room and those of you who might be joining the live stream. First up will be Rachel Franklin Wood. The notorious RFW grew up in Laramie, Wyoming. Currently, she lives, teaches, and sells books in Boulder, Colorado. Her poems have appeared in Annulet, Denver Quarterly, Fence, Hayden Ferry's Review, Smoke and Mold, and We Want It All, an anthology of radical trans poetics and elsewhere. Please join Rachel. Please join me in welcoming Rachel.
Hi. How are you? Good. If I stand here, can you hear me? Okay, I'll project. I'm reading 3 poems called My Novel. The third one is the best, which feels like the wrong choice, but I'm just gonna jump into them. My Novel. First, I was stranded, having pushed the green car too fast up the hill and it snapped. Thinking in the moment, this is what I get. For what? The road was clear and empty, but then again it would have been. A country road. A quick down and then up again away from a small pond, mostly circular, which might have meant a body artificial, though this hole misshapen enough to be maybe real, and either way, this detail insignificant. There were large homes with cement foundations, showy and set back far enough from the road to be in the approach like a postcard, carefully framed and uninteresting. Something perfect and squared to be sent through the system to pull a few scars and some personality, having borne witness to the insides of satchels and sorting machines, flurry efficient. These stories which must be made from their marks. There were mobile homes too close to the road, and their gathered cars in disrepair, the rounded metal bodies a marker out of time, here for me seeming in the moment like the Airstream trailer that belonged at one point to the neighbor boy. We spent the summers sweating inside it, the shining door propped open, creating imagined creatures with multicolored gel pens. The pen's hazy clear chambers revealing the changing boundary of the ink as the ink dropped. A Lisa Frank assemblage plunging cock-like our monsters onto the page. An aversion in filling in or some unearned resistance to using anything up. I never filled in the body, and so these new registered beings were in most ways the opposite of the pen's cloudy barrel, color only on the outside. My novel. Pre-adolescent, I grew crystals from a crystal growing kit. And although I cannot now remember the colors of these crystals, I remember their shapes and the little stones I used to seed these crystals. I remember them still, or remember what of them was still partially visible, their rough feldspar asses, naked under their new-grown shapes, and made in their company so much less interesting, though probably even these were important, having given the crystals something to root to. I'm writing these poems because I'm trying to figure out why another poem isn't working. So I was like, just write the thing itself, and it just turned into more poems, which is fine. My novel. I'm in a city. It has a name. You know it as well as I do. We say this name together, and as it comes swimming into focus, some small urban structures made out just visible through the heat stripes, the outskirts dressed in tow trucks and storage units and tattered plastic streamers, the same 4 colors repeating forever in triangles. I know that the triangle is the strongest shape because it has been told to me, because it has been first told to someone else, because someone else had first told it to them. We say in the classroom triangulation or constellation, and so contract or go spinning off into the opening, newly estimated to be much larger than the last new estimation of much largerness. We effort to develop newness faster than the aesthetic expansion of everything, which feels, absurd, as if an edge might explain its own contents, the then visible overgrowth easier to quick tame with an edger, the edged break between lawn and paver, then that much more obvious. Please don't think I'm too hung up on this whole question of origin. The laminate minerals that grow layers out of their own selves, I think first to call pica, which when spelled one way is a rodent announcing itself, and when spelled the other is a compulsion. My father's childhood neighbor in the yard behind his house eats dirt by the spoonful, then runs head first into the narrow side of a door. And even in this telling, I confuse the histories of these children and take one action from the absent child and give it instead to this present one, clutching his forehead and moaning. But the word I'm really searching for is mica, an efforting collaboration toward being something other than false gold. Mica, which goes also by muscovite, which takes its name from Moscow, and when thin, I think looks like fish scale or mother of pearl, but becomes more concrete and in turn plainer as the layers build up. Hardier than glass and sourced in great sheets in old Russia, the mineral was earlier in its history commonly used to paint lanterns and ships, the light holding open. The mica I find by the river in veins thick as my thumb, feathers at the edges, something like the fiberglass insulation exposed by the new square openings cut in the wall when the exterminators came looking for the source of the buzzing that shifted sometime recently out of the abstract. The room in the morning filled with many more living things than the night before. My past teems with insects, and though most of the species I know from those years still exist, they are fewer every day, and this isn't even really entirely a trick of Roe's memory. I don't know whether the arrival of new information troubles the old knowing, if the new report comes back to say what there is on the other side is much the same as what there is on this one, but less. There is a stress test here working to keep our knowing suspended over the long water. If information gets wet, it is likely to exit itself, the newspaper bleeding its colors first into its gutter and then into the gutter, where all things eventually go and are washed away into drains which wash into the river, which exists in this city, and the newspapers too. In small cities like this one, the journalists leave the office for home at 5, having already spent most of the day imagining what news might have happened somewhere else. In the winter months, the light through the chicken wire glass will have already seeped, and then, only then, it will be that the drums of the paper machine, warmed up, start turning. I don't know if it's the acoustics in this room or just being here, but every time I speak at a microphone in this room, I feel like I'm gonna cry. And I don't know, there's like something, it like comes back to me, which is fine, whatever. I have one final poem, which has John Cage in it, and I was trying to figure out what to title this poem, and it has Cage in it, but it doesn't have Merce Cunningham, and so I gave the poem a title, which is A Dance. And even in silence we join ourselves. In his isolation chamber, Cage finds the thrum of blood in his ears nearly unbearable. As when to sleep, we make the room louder, pipe in the wails. A red and blue rhombus traversing the ceiling when an ambulance passes. We see it or we don't. Either way, it's there, some other person behind the wheel.
Next up is Isaac Hollinworth, who is a writer, musician, and cartoonist from Renton, Washington. His favorite movie is Funky Forest, The First Contact. And to be honest, they feel a little bit weird about reading on Juneteenth.
It's true. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. I don't know. I feel like I haven't heard that much today, but it's important. Well, it's kind of a song, but it's got a little bit of a gimmick to it. And I don't know if you know this, but there are certain letters that you have to use your lips to say. M, B, etc. So I thought I'd try to write something where I don't need to use my lips at all. Okay, so this is a song for an amateur ventriloquist. See if you can catch my lips moving. Can't, I swear. Inside a dark hull, longing to see in alternate tongue, sonorous liqueur, tangent, target, tonal center, loose crack tree, loose tile rune like lunacy. Look, sing. This song like granulated sugar, slender, innocent, toenails, ears, eyelids, gosling and goose crossing under a shadow. Great, a hanging round, the head and setting, collecting nectar. Ah la, ooh la la. On the nightstand, a razor, a letter, a glass. Siri, sort contacts. Who is too old to know who is single? Thank you. Next, I have a film to show you, but it's in this. This is my zine that I made for Valerie's class this year. It was incredible. This movie is called Bone Ceramics. Sylphie reclined against the electric box, the garish blue sky staring at her. Fidgeting with the large ceramic marble in her pocket, she looked at the note given to her moments ago. Pencil marks, instructions. The Hotel des Lèvres Rouges was brand new. No track marks on the windows, no massage parlor in the basement. She held her breath as long as she could under the bathwater, thumbs pressed into hips. She went to some pre-linguistic place. Cut. One old man, large arthritic knuckles, chasing a couple of anise seeds around his palm. The other old man, very thin, large eyes, way out front, like an owl, like a predator. The moon leaned in to listen to these two men in the garden talk about glass vials with green liquid. They agreed on the terms of their arrangement and continued to their room at Le Rouge. Cut. Sylvie dyed her hair and sat on the brass-framed bed, trying not to think about anything but the next few days. She pulled an alligator skin bag from under the bed and began tallying its contents. The wallpaper watched her do this. Snakes following peaches up and down the length of it, a folded-up building plan for the hotel, a pair of socks, underwear, gloves, condoms, syringes, and a device which looked like a teapot but was really a brain. Cut. 100 years ago, Carter was cold. A pinch in her shoulder indicated surgery had begun. Her ribs were opened like cabinet doors, thoracic contents uncurled with forceps laid out long, like so many different colored wires. Surgeon's breath was visible in the light of hurricane lamps. This tower, so deep in the shadow of the volcano, her bones ground to make piezoelectric ceramics, skeletal muscle stretched over unfamiliar apparatus. Hands, eyes, vocal cords, brain become tools. Cut. The old man and the owl break their rental agreement, drilling anchors into the wall studs, hanging tubing, bottles, gas burners, latex masks, copper coils. The owl cuts the hanging lamp from the ceiling and strips the wiring, preparing it for a new coupling. The old man opens a hat box and pulls out a rhythmically thumping ceramic jar. The only window always closed faces south to the brick wall of a hospital. They put out cigarettes on the sill. The room already smells like the guests have been smoking in it for decades. The thumping jar is covered in irregular lumps. The old man turns the top, widening an aperture. He puts 2 fingers inside. Cut. A metallic scream tears across the side of the volcano. It sounds like a submarine twisted and crushed in the jaws of an enormous and unknown sea creature. The scream comes from 3 irregularly shaped pipes, jutting from the side of the tower, jutting from the side of the volcano, jutting from the side of the earth. Inside the tower, the pipes connect to unfathomably complex instruments. It looks like something like a church organ with a telegraph key and oscilloscope instead of a keyboard. The operator covers his ears and taps out, "Carter, what's wrong? Stop." But the screaming continues. Panicked, he jumps up and runs to the phone on the opposite wall. "S, go now. Right now." And that's the end of that film for now. Just a little trailer. Okay, I just have one more, really short one. Hello. This is nothing. There is nothing left. Signs, oracles, political action, nothing but bricks. It's the end, isn't it? No more of this or this. No more moments at all. Just continuous nothing. No more smoke break, just smoke. Life is a job you're not allowed to quit. Earth is an apartment, and I can't afford to break the lease, but I can't afford to pay it either. Taking baths and writing about suicide helps. Look at that. That's pretty. Sometimes this place is beautiful, and I keep looking at it, even when it's falling apart. Thank you.
Jason Lapellis is a writer, video artist, and human being with feelings. He founded Faint Line Press and co-founded the a space for loving responses to zines and art books with Marcella Green. He's an alum of Image Text Ithaca MFA, Reciprocity Artist Retreat, and Institute for Jewish Creativity. His first book, Letters to M, a finalist for the Chautauqua Janus Prize, was published by Pilot Press in 2021. Currently, he is a PhD candidate in creative writing and literature at the University of Denver.
Stitching names, breeding time. Mi sheberach. Teacher, elder, first love, friend. Avotenu. Bloodline, family line. Makor habracha. Felix, rise. Ross, rise. Imotenu. Sing, mend, meld, mend. May the source of strength,
who bless the one,
stitching names,
bless the one,
braiding time,
bless the ones before us,
who bless the ones before us.
help us find the courage,
Shadow, echo, out, line.
help us find the courage.
Larry thread, Wayne thread,
Who bless the one,
to make our lives a blessing. Blood line, family line,
before us,
and let us say,
who bless the
poor,
ones
need,
before
touch,
us,
dry.
bless the ones, who bless the ones, who bless the ones
Mi sheberach. Muriel, Molly, Dan, mend,
bless the ones before us,
emotenu.
bless the ones
Stitching names,
who bless the ones
braiding time.
bless the ones
Makor habracha.
bless the ones
MSK by Lavotenu. Down, divide, braid, rise. Bless those in need of healing. Blood line, family line. With refuah shlema. Shadow, echo, out, line. The renewal of body. Rise, brush, heat, eyes. The renewal of spirit. Stitching names, braiding time. And let us say, blood line, family line. Avotenu, Makor habracha, Limotenu, May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Mi sheberach Avotenu Makor habracha Imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Mi sheberach Avotenu Makor habracha Imotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, renewal of body, renewal of spirit, and let us say,
Charlotte Ann Sachs, often known as Charlie, or Charles in Charge, is an MFA candidate at Naropa University's Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics here in Boulder, Colorado, on this timeline. She works as a writing consultant at the Naropa Writing Center and is also an essential volunteer editor for the Bombay Gin Literary Journal. She holds a BA and SC degree from the late Quest University, Canada, where she studied narrative, folklore, and the rich and exciting literary world of fairy tale revisions. She is a self-confessed fantasy nerd who enjoys arranging flowers and walking other people's dogs. Please bring your dogs to campus. Please welcome Charlie.
Hi. I've never read on this stage before. I'm a little nervous and I have a lot to get through, so no more clapping. Can you hear me okay? Yes. All right, great. A little bit down. Okay. This is called Porn of Americana. Cut up empty curls, and you are left with cherries. Cherries are the color of 50s housewives dripping out their mouths. What should God have given them? A vibrator? A job? Flatten them down to paper dolls, the ideal on the cave wall? Porn of Americana? More gingham? Push mowers? If he loves you, he'll buy you a washing machine. Americurlers, smoking hair. Men don't like to believe that the cave art was from women. It's like white Americana not liking to remember the first course of its dinner. Genocide is a skinny, unfed secret in the corner of a powder blue icebox. Straight Razor says, "See here, Sonny, beer cans, Jell-O, Jerry pie smeared into hair, frogs, jacuzzi on the stove, smoking doctor-approved menthols, briefcase, kitten heels, lipstick smeared into skin, flat chest, flat smile, flat on the wall, a painting rendered." I was writing every morning over winter break, and so I wrote about my dreams, for which I apologize. This is titled Dream from December 26, 2023. There was an ancient curse, preserved in a tomb, untouched until it was. There was a road with a woman dancing happily down in circles. She wore a fashionable white top and had several extra legs, insectoid, cephalopod-like. Her expression was as content as a woman who came out of the divorce with the children and the house. I knew there were rumors about the monster, fears, but I could see then that it was always the best outcome for her, the curse, the monster. Time flashed back, and she was a child, a little girl in a plaid dress with a ponytail pulled tight, glasses, mocked and abandoned by her peers. She developed a contentious relationship with an older man with breathing tubes in his nose. "If he can be a squid, then I can be a bug," cries the indignant girl to her tormentors as she points to the man with tubes in his nose. A rude child to call him a squid. A strange child to want to be a bug. We cut away to see the tomb, listening, a wise giant tardigrade in a stone room at a table, listening. The music swells with meaning. She was always going to become the creature. She doesn't mind that now she scares the men she used to want to seduce. She is pretty now, she dyed her mousy hair blonde. Then the vision shifts, and I'm watching a room full of frightened men between their 20s and 50s, trying to decide what to do about the tomb, the curse, the monster. They spoke with the smug affectations of knowing the movie was about them. I wish they were wrong. I'm glad I woke up before I had to watch them kill her. All eyes on the smug heroes in the room full of dark cherry wood and bravado. And this one is just called The Warning. Rolling underneath, I am breathing. Spin my limbs, roiling. The sea is what humans were made for. Roiling is what I was meant to do. Star-crossed breathers, I was always going to taste your bones. She was always going to spin us out from each other. Hungry ocean wipes lovers off her cheek with a white napkin. I was always going to wake up choking on brine. You were always going to sink through my skin, cling to the life raft of my thighs. How lovely to drown with you, sweetly, violently. Waves cover the skin of my shoulders and leave secrets. Limpets and barnacles spell out the simplest warning that love can be this way. All right. Got one more, it's a little bit long. I want to talk to you clearly. I don't want layered language or to try to be especially clever and talented. I'm just also a little too tired to bother with trying to defend the taking off of clothes as something other than another easy artifice. I just talk like this sometimes, okay? Sometimes this is what is happening in the Ouija brain, so don't pretend you don't know what I mean. I came here to say that I might have only has fallen as knee-deep, sick in the gut, in love, lived together, breathed the same muck, know your parents' favorite foods, probably accidentally eaten some of your hair in my sleep kind of love, knee bleeding and I'd still feel better with your hand on my shoulder than a Band-Aid love. No one else can see this part of me in my body, love. I think I could only do that because as much as I knew I wanted the house and the dog and the kids and the your sickness, your sickness, your sickness, I'll work harder, you're getting better, your sickness, your sickness, your sickness, the second dog, the second mortgage, you still searching for work that doesn't feel like swallowing ashes, my body, my body, my body, found a home in you, my body homes your kids, my body yelling, don't smoke around the kids in the house, the second mortgage, my body, your sickness, my body knows you, my body knows your sickness, my body knows your sickness. You might not believe me when I tell you now, but I wanted this, and what comes after and before, and what happens again and again and again, and I think I could only love you like this because I knew you were going to leave me. I think I could only strip off to the tender, bendy bones, little girl-boy parts of me because I only like love that is going to hurt, like many of us. And I left, stop. I said, this isn't working, stop. I said, let me help you, don't. My hand has bite marks from a shark for helping too much. And then my body, your sickness, my body, your sickness. No one has put me in my body like you have. You said, no one cradles your head right. I think you should teach your girlfriends how to let you get tender because that's what helps. You know there isn't a cure for this. So nod along, squeeze me until it's medicine, your sickness, my body, your sickness, my body, and your fingers stepping on stones of other people's mistakes, and my body gets softer when it is loving you, and I love it even more when it is covered in your sickness, my body swallowing ashes, swallowing you like a good little... I have so many skills now. Watch the little wind-up toy on the bed. Makes noises, makes people feel like they are good at this, having a good time, but I can't believe it was about other people because I can't reach my hollow, cracking bird bone self with other people, and so I know you aren't either. I knew before you even told me about your sickness and my body, the fairy tale. You hate stop signs because you don't trust people, the sickness, and I have to remember I quit the job of making you feel better, all the fairy tale sickness. Time is not kind to us, I think. Time is my body and the cherry trees I cut down outside the house I left you in. Don't. I think maybe I knew I was leaving when I watched them cut the tree down, and I think my body knew before I did when it started walking past our street on the way home after work to go to second work and stop. Second work, your sickness, the cherry tree, my body aching, the same conversation twice before saying no, not again, until your brain is only eating itself, dopamine short supply. So this is what I mean when I type. I hope you're well. Love you. Did your sister have her baby? And then I delete them because when my body remembers you texting back, I swallow ash and lie, and I'm a liar anyway, since I do think it would be nice to seem smart every once in a while, don't you? But not as nice as being a good little body, sleeping with your head, cradling your sickness. Stop.
Que bueno. One more round of applause for Charlie, Jason, Isaac, and Rachel. Let's take a 12-minute intermission back at 8:05.
know. I'm hiding right now. That's what I was looking for. Clear rules, outline, structure. Thank you. Now I know.
All right, mi gente, here we go. Second half. Woo! One could say Caleb Cheadle is foremost a writer, but they would be wrong. Rather, Caleb is a farmer who just can't stop writing. He holds a BA in English literature from The Ohio State University and is part of the Kerouac School's 2024 class of MFA graduates. While at Naropa, Caleb has also discovered loves of Ikebana and pedagogy, and this week's Ikebana arrangement is one of Caleb's. Woo! So please join me in welcoming Caleb.
All right, can you guys hear me? Yeah? Sweet. I've got two pieces I'm going to read tonight. The first one's a little shorter, and then the second one is a serial piece that I worked on last week. This first piece is entitled, What Doesn't Kill You Causes You Stress. The doctor said, stress is going to kill this kid. And by stress, he meant nicotine. Also, carbs are stress. Genetic conditions, too. The truck on the highway that tips then crushes, stress. The tooth that you choke on, hidden in a sandwich, stress. When I lay down to rest in bed at night, chronic stress. The doctor wrote a prescription for an adaptogenic aid, but it was written on tissue paper and the pharmacist blew her nose on it. Instead, she rolls 3 pills across the counter. She tells me, take these and you'll be fine. And I swallow without knowing. Now I'm back at the doctor's and he's asking why I'm so stupid. You're too loose now. Looseness will kill you for sure. He prescribes an astringent supplement. This time the pharmacist fills my order. I ask her if she still has a cold, and she says no, just stress. This next piece is written in the epistolary format. It is Letters to Rocks. M. I brought you into my home, green, glassy, jagged, and asked that you not project true reflection of what you saw. I demanded abstraction, refraction, distortion, to tell the truth but tell it slant. What was in my home that I was so mortified by the prospect of public display? Why did I constrain you so? Perhaps the constraint was of your device, my wishes sublimated by the faces and facets of you. A skipping stone has motion in its purpose, but they are not you. Microcosmic monolith, a mirror in jagged jade. Your cousin came by this weekend and I shut the door in their face. I cut them off from the sky. Instead, they went next door and peered through gaps in the molding. I'm referring, of course, to your cousin, the voyeur. They long for the touch of places they've never been, worlds away from theirs. Anyways, while at the neighbors, they beheld, free of my demands of abstraction. Their perspective held the truth that scares me in a way you never could. That is why I killed them, your cousin. I cut them from the sun forever. The truth of my home dies with them, for not even I see authenticity anymore. D. C. I wrote your father near a month ago, but have yet to hear the sirens. Did he receive my missive, I must wonder? I hope he did and made peace, but now I turn my worry to you. Bearer of a liar's lineage, did you know you peddle falsehoods when telling family stories? Perhaps it matters not. I only mention this so that you do not delude yourself into a white dove. A bird is easily broken, something about hollow bones I once heard. I worry in vain, you are your father's stone. D. R. I feel as if I am writing into the void. I wrote your father no response. I wrote your sister and received only a framed printout of a sad emoji in response. Am I crazy for wanting a reply from a family of rocks? They say you can't wring blood from a stone, but why not ink? My unsatisfied anxiety for reply pushes me to brevity, yet the impulse does not consume. I wonder what death means to you. Have you felt the intimate caress? I killed your father's cousin, you may have already heard, but you killed your father. His silence speaks evidence. D. J. A mountain is a rock as surely as you are, though you've tried to shed emotion. I write now from desperation. I have not received reply from your children nor your estranged husband. I have claimed ownership over wounds you left. They think me a killer. We know how laughable this idea is. Me as well, a victim rather. Are you writing now to yourself? What is a death if no one believes? D. M. Postage is adding up, but I suppose a rock like you has no need for money. No need for postage either if you never write back. I am reticent to sound bitter, but have no control over how you read me. Am I simply a voice in your head to you? You sap my agency through silence. I wonder if the death affected you, or if perhaps I've slighted you some other way. When last you visited, I forbade you reflect the truth, but now I long to hear anything at all. Perhaps I've gone deaf, and my greatest symphony can now commence. I'll write you out completely by the end. D. B. At the bottom of the barrel is you, and I've come to say hello. The rest of the rocks have gone silent, but I recall when last we were in contact, you cracked my window. The spiderweb of lines and imperfect pain spoke volumes, and I long for such loquacious capacity now. Will I hear from you? I'm sure the rocks are all talking about the death. I wonder on your thoughts. Do you have your suspicions on perpetrator or motive? I keep a secret you can barely guess, but would immediately believe were I to disclose. Should I disclose? Why not when my words fall on the ears of the dead? I wonder if you prefer the grave, the cairn, to what your life was before the end. Stone among stones, all blood strewn by man's hand, and I waving a red paintbrush. The China shop bull charges me into collapse, and the ink must set. Forever yours only, now that you see what forever is. D. Thank you.
Hunter Case is a poet and artist, an alum of the Kerouac School, whose work often metabolizes critical theory as well as the real histories of the CIA, as well as the phantasmagoria of the CIA. And they're currently going through it, so be kind.
Thank you, Jeff. It's been a really disorienting time lately, so a lot of this is going to be new shit. And notes shit. No shit. There we go. Okay. The sun was built on the back of the UN monolith. The colors of the moon 3 times tried to build the bomb. The thing you call the street, bones of the Red Scare coming. How many times do you need the future before you can call it a threat? A belt around me, a serpent tongue wrapped, an experiment, electrodes and weapons made of sound, the threat of your memories, a laboratory studying the suffering of the world. This is the riddle of history, obfuscated with bark and bite, made mystified. At every level of the spheres, a horn penetrates the dome, accelerating and accelerating the weight towards a comprehensive dialogue with the teeth of God. I wish there was nothing else I could say. I wish there was more to this than a collection of tears. I am so alone in the walls of someone else I rent. I could be an octopus mangling the carcass of the economy, a golden goose gambit manufactured in the same factory that showcases my missing angles, that one day will be lined with ivory carved from the bones of poorer children than my own. Grimshaw wrapped around a telephone pole, ominous embouchure on stone-deaf fractures of space-time, a bullet cascading into a symphony of disgust. Inside each of my arms is a potential for violence, metered out in parcels of tenderness. It's hard to say that when anyone is watching. If you can read my words, they've gotten to me. Ghosts, a hungry bardo lined with bear traps, a ground uprooted into the third heaven of the United Nations choir, war criminals chanting in disarray with each other but in alignment with the arc of the universe, 10,000 bucktooth gaps filled in with colors of starvation and genocide. The sea is starving, the sky is starving, half of the sky is starving, held up by one half starving and holding the gun. They don't want us to know ourselves without any sort of intervention. Anyone who comes to help has to be culled and taken to pasture. The truth about the war, the perpetual killing of a pipeline through the Arab nations, Israel a beachhead. If there wasn't one, we'd have to invent it. If there wasn't an outpost, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a visible signal of distress, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a suffering, we'd have to make some. If there wasn't a weapons deal, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a concentration camp, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a God, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a plan, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a war room, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a death squad, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a book, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a street, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a rubble, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a scream, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a drone, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a God, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a place, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a face, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a thought, we'd have to make one. If there wasn't a manual, we'd have to make one. Make no mistake who your enemies are. Make no mistake who your forefathers are. Make no mistake who your destructions are. Your enemies are smart but not foolproof. Your enemies have cataloged and worshipped every Fordist impulse, but they are not sonar. Your enemies have textbooks in lecture halls filled with your next steps. Your enemies have studied your friends. Your enemies know there is a war. Never trust anyone who says there isn't one. Never trust anyone who steps foot into your mouth and asks you to be satisfied with the taste. Never trust anyone who says they think it's good enough. Never trust anyone who says we can't have it all. Never trust anyone who thinks without a strategy. Tie your line to a bark palace and weave through the mystery. Get rid of the rhyme and end up with the melody. There are declassified documents showing who your friends are, and there are classified ones that don't. Never trust anyone who tells you peace only takes one form. Your enemies are counting on the service of 1,000 men in coats, opening doors for men who service doors. Your enemy has built a temple spread across the globe and filled with everything. A tech billionaire wedding in the pyramids, and 1,000 miles away, aid trucks are bombed. And 3,000 miles from there, the information from the groom feeds the servers that bomb the truck. The guillotine is a poem that can only be read at a specific angle, a universe inside the throat of the global world system. Never trust anyone who tells you not to look inside. It's only there in that headless summer that the poem is read together, only there that space and time dissolve into one. I am in every dream a circle of my mother. I can get to the rooftop and slowly glide my way down, and when I look over my house the next morning, I see military planes wafting like buckeyes. little tiny cherry stems. They walk out and bark in the empty sluice where the river used to flow, sitting for hours on their haunches, never being told what to do, when to move, what to possibly become. There is love here, but maybe it's not as big as the next one. Maybe it's okay. I do love you after all, love. I do want to feel your skin on mine. If there was a shattered window pane, I would see reflections of your face in a whirlwind of love dominated by currents of white noise. Love, I swear I felt like dancing at the start of this evening. I looked at you and watched you watching me. I sit here and I want to feel you dance with me, feel you slither around. But the market watches us, hungry for a piece of the reconstruction of Germany, hungry for the chance to tear down the wall. Do you know Willy Brandt? Sometimes the wall can be helpful. After the war, Nazis were repatriated into the West German leadership. This would evolve out into high-ranking officials being reintroduced to their families, their friends, their complicities, welcomed back. The United States, NATO, the UN hungry for their bloodied heroes. The continued maintenance of a fascist international. The project of wringing out the logical consequences. Capital had supported the Reich. Now it would continue to. Israel, America, all the Vichy's built into a lumbering carcass of scent. The word veil means a sail. The drive, that which hides, propels, camouflaged molecules of air pressure drifting hopscotch between smokestacks of various slumber. Deep earth, this means wood. This means ore. This means the uranium of a shared language. You see, love, we can't often see the things that web us, the things that are always and forever touching us, holding us in place, pushing us, veiling us. I mean to write you a love poem, and I write you a post-war history of the 20th century. I mean to write you a love poem, and instead I have to count every single one of the dead. Does cinder block mean that every piece holds something else? Or does it mean that they were used to hold in fire? I don't want to tell you something inaccurate. This is meant to be an accounting. Poetry is meant to be an accounting. This is an economic order. If a poem is to direct a flow of desire, it must first account for the world system which gave rise to that desire. If your garden doesn't grow, start from the sun. Then work your way to the water, the meal, the microbes of the earth. One night, I want to cook you potatoes the way you want. And so I must study the movement of the planets, the factory machine of 100 different orders. My stove has investments in weapon shipments. The salt was carved from a dying ocean. I am the rifle, the coffee, the gauze. I am alive, but then summer arrives. Odious as it is, the work never calls me but to scorn. I am worried I don't love anything. There is something simple when it comes to a noose. It never tells me I am late for anything. It only ever takes the weight fully. I can still feel it. I can still breathe it. This is not a weapon. This is not a thought. Only whispered notions I breathe into coral. There is no pressure to be anything. I feel that there is. I feel that there is so much pressure in the whole world. I feel everything. The atmosphere is thousands of miles, flat line, flat rate. I am trying to be better than I am. I know you know. If this was a war, maybe I'd be fighting. Maybe I'd be a chef or a nurse, immaterial built hanging off a toothed chainsaw. 1,000 times I call for God in the margins of my notebook, the margins of my dreams. My brain is a biowarfare lab filled with right chemicals, filled with hollow beak noise. I have forgotten the path to my own memories. I was waiting on my front porch for the war to arrive, and then it did. The war made a cento of me. The war came and I did nothing but feel. Air crackling with suffering. Everyone I know is worse than they were a year ago. My body is a boomerang of contradiction. If there were a country, I could leave and return. If there were an ode, there would be a palinode. Thank you.
Ben Claus is a poet, playwright, and printer. Triple threat. They are the founder of Sister C Press, dedicated to printing all news that's unfit to print. Plays developed at Nomads Art Collective, Carmel Theater Company, and the Chagrin Academy for the Performing Arts. They, like a few others in this room, are one mother kissin' week away from graduating from the Jack Kerouac School.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to start this evening by reading some poems that I've been writing in Andrea's wonderful workshop. Let me start my timer here. This first one is called I'm Sick in Light, Summer Light, which is a direct quote from some lines written by Johan Gorason, and it's for my good friend Bo. I'm sick in light, summer light. Joy is once again squatting center stage, and I wonder all how the outside forces to stop us, namely email, commerce, admin work, layoff, a faraway purse puller to missile birds, to murderers. But joy, there she goes, squatting, all like the coolest shitting boy there is. And I feel my flatness is too flat for joy to climb, hang, dangle her bow from. I am too flat to not be a boy anymore. I am too flat, and I'm just sick of far away, really. While Bo squats center to shit lay an egg with her mouth, and I am flat, but the words are the best words I've heard. Those words, those words. This next one is called 5 and 1, named after what I find the most detestable beauty product that a lot of men use. It is shampoo, conditioner, body wash, face wash, and deodorizer in a bottle, and it's disturbing to me. So this is a 5-part, so it's 5 and 1. To hate is to fear fascism itself. That green bottle interrupts the date. And then I fear big, burly Boulder men commute down the mountain onto to come down in your arms as your beard, my breast, your beard, my pelvis, a damage from the right straight into the inners, the right, the way men are always right, the way they never moisturize. And then your products, I assign myself as homework to handle beard burns, the absolute driest stone carried down from Ski Mountain, somehow without retaining moisture. How did you bring no snow with you over to my place? We can't take it all on its own names. The insects dancing the pavilion. Imagine all of these statues come to life, coming to, and we can't name them all. These Billies and Jacks and other names that usually designate an inability to moisturize, to use other products that don't promise cleanup in 60 seconds or less. Put mercury in to loosen those proud jaw lines and then wait some more. I like how I sent my words to you naked on the back of a postcard. Imagine all those mail workers touching it unclothed. It being how you yanked me up onto your friend's sink, threw me in the shower, your sudden sculpture ruined by that green bottle product, the way it smelled coming out. We put down a towel to catch my blood. From your demigod positions, you ask, do I always bleed now? Only when it's good. Only then did you look upset for the first time since we've been doing this on and off for years now, and never once did you see a drop of body come from me until today. The drought lasted 18 months, my face kept with lines, the snow wouldn't puddle, no matter how hard I positioned or fancied to. He takes care of her tightness outside the sex store. Tight is only desired upon entry. Upon breaking, tight is often taken to the park for deep breathing. Tight is hurried away in unnameable capsules. He administered to her nose sidewalk and she can't walk. Tight can't be named as it is bought next to the other long, harder things. To say she says, I like it tight, but I rarely get to, that is, see your tightness in the dark, you're ending ass up. That last section was for my friend Brian, so. This next one is called I Planned to Dress This in Craft, but was too tired. How hard to end genocide when we can't even make our own poets feel safe from our other poets. Remember the ones who stayed home tonight. Remember the ones who stayed home. And then I'm going to end with some poetry from my manuscript, which is about Narcissus. So here we go. Thesis shit. It was cold again, and Narcissus could have ordered coldness to be murdered the rest of his days. If he had gotten one of those powerful men to stay longer than 10 minutes or so, he would have. But instead, he stood shivering in the snow like the days following his birth. When his mother would dote on him, he was gone now. I'm right here, like a snow image imprinted on the front lawn, which, Mom, she dragged her feet to erase. She thought by erasing his image, he would suddenly reappear in his navy and blue coat, which he despised wearing, but she made him wear it anyway. You'll catch a cold and die. Do you really want that now, do you? The worst was the second disappearance immediately following the first. The way a stop cannot sustain. After the homily and the tears and the condolences, which she kept in a frozen place but still withered, regardless, things that ended up in the garbage truck despite her best efforts to keep it all in the house, the way the time would next, to the town gathering again, to throw explosions into the sky and think they're all connected to something greater, to a named place that sends messages through its most model men and their disappearances, the word hero which would never rot, but stood veneer naked and hungry, hung around despite her best efforts to keep it out of her home. It would eat anything she kept in the fridge and in the second bedroom to the right upstairs, right past that ugly painting he did the first time he learned he didn't have to be good at something to do it, which both could and could not rot, the way it hung on the walls, which hadn't been washed since, the way the grime was the only sort of time since death her family would allow her to keep, because she was the only one who would notice. Thank you.
Just a note for those especially joining us on the internet. This is about day 10, in which we are spending about 12 hours a day with the same group of people. So a certain giddiness has obtained as a part of our esprit de corps. Not to put too fine a point on it. Booh Hang is an artist and writer working in poetry, comma, movement, comma, and things so mundane, nothing happens. She grew up in Indonesia, spent years in Los Angeles, and now lives in Colorado, where she is the 2022 Anselm Hollow Fellow here at Naropa University. Her recent work, Squat Practice, was a finalist for the 2024 Essay Press Chapbook Contest. Her other writing can be found now or in the near future at the Poetry Project newsletter, Wildness, Bombay Gin, and Denver Quarterly's digital edition called Fives. Booh.
I love you, Ben. Yeah, I don't know what this is yet. Fool's worthy. My friends are all wrapped up and blistering with the birch trees while we wait for the harsh sun to return us each to our own spotlights, albeit flickering. To speak in short shouts is to tape our lives to the chest and proudly walk on ash, black and flat. I like the sun more than this windy town, but turbulence made you rudely alert to the sounds I reflex to and resonate. When we call our respective mothers in the afternoon like habit, I meant to say I admit, but to address or acknowledge my adolescence as an adult would mean never having met you. Besides, having grown up too fast, it doesn't get any easier to be someone else's child. How is that possible? I give up. The hot room makes our ankles sweat, so we bring the knees in and become rascals never allowed for. I'll behave like said dinner, the only kind we have anymore, whereby it's decided none of us like goat. My cords sting from shrieking all night at your faces. My loves, I don't know how to mend my off-day ambling. In other words, adjacency, how I stuck around for the first time, but not of all time. Suspicious of going without touch for months at a time, I bring that to the table. It's for the best. I love you when I'm not around, so I'm not around. My cruelty is sincere, checking in with every member, extraneous or not. What about the blades? I need them. To refurbish without would destroy every memory, and not just the good ones. When the night is gargantuan, when the night never ends, we met that bard before driving to Arnott's, but never heard his tales of old. How can it be your first time? I don't go out. Like ever? I mean, I've heard of it. From here on out, whatever dribbles down the hall, I've seen it. I'm surprised when I've in fact seen what I'm talking about, and it proves to myself and the whole group that I'm a careerist just like them. We wore layers because of the weather. It fluctuates, once a lisp, now a gargle. Careening all together down the bend ensures we have the night's critical mass and we won't topple over. By fragrance, I mean levity. The lesser sense of me comes out in a silhouette. It's more than half of the bargain. Doubles can handle distance in our midst, molecule by molecule reverberating to the level of the room, and I'm aware I'm the same wave as the next. I get missed. I get amid. I've always wanted to meet my double as she ripples into me, but sorting out how to get out of this frequency is like saying I don't want oranges anymore, but that's not something I would say. So, bean cake, it's your lap. Cut into slices, Taiwanese breakfast has milk and donuts, a natural consequence of living in the same city and doing the same thing. It was bound to happen one day. I catch myself saying I'm lap, as if muddling casually fools the mouth. I was about to reach out when I heard a noise coming from the roof. Then the church bells in the distance rang at the hour, and I counted to 3 for it to pass. It passed. Damn, you really do know me. My father is falling apart inside my memory of him, and the mind is difficult to drain. Fluids have nowhere to go, and when they go renegade. I get one dangerous surgery after another because the doctors still say you're young. My father was the stable one, and now when he's not young enough to go through with the surgery, he's tied flat like a bead at the end of a necklace to keep the rest of us from slipping off our one silk thread. Where would we be without silk? I knew now what I knew then, what we were poor. You could leave me anywhere, and she'd be fine. I never worried about you. Originally, I wasn't a problem. To be anywhere discreetly, I needed all the parts up close and very small where it was hard to tell what I was looking at. So aware of the details, because the details stay the same whether I had been there or not. No one talks about the tenure of the placement against the texture of the placemat, and that was all I could speak to. With only so much pleasantry to go around, I bested off after dinner and left my artichoke untouched. The palm heart's all yours. Thanks for having me. Your family is darling, and so is this living room with a view of the castle. Stunning. Ankles headed back over heels were in my position. Lower back problems come from working all day. I don't have a disc out of place, but all day means lunch break rather than my life, on the weekend rather than my life. In addition to violence, I grow tall and towards it. We work ourselves to forget we don't need much, and I can't bear my own needs, not as much as I can brutality. Automatic visions are sage, and not thinking, just living where everything living feeds me, fleeing, forgetting I have things to attend to, rip, and away my face in the hot room, waiting for preparations to come into order. I see a candle that was far from simple. In the historic park, my solace is to finally blame someone and not the situation. When will you walk through the door and say, I'm here? Everything has a posture and vibration, and I'm sick of waiting for vibrations. If the current is so low that the equipment can't pick it up, how am I supposed to hear anything the day after? I don't carry earplugs with me. I don't play an instrument. Thank you.
Our final reader, Eric Renan Fishman's first book, Morty Gets Enlightened, was published through The Little Door in 2017 and reissued by Turnsall Edition, in 2021. His work has appeared in Bombay Gin, 20 Bellows, Voicemail Poetry, Mountain Bluebird Magazine, New Feathers Anthology, the Boulder Weekly newspaper, and others. He was recently one of 2 winners of the Denver Quarterly's 2023 Poetry Broadside Competition, which produced a 60-edition letterpressed object, as well as a facsimile reprinted in the Quarterly itself. He has taught workshops for a variety of Colorado-based organizations, including Beyond Academia Free School. That's spelt with a K, y'all. The Firehouse Arts Center, and Crestone Poem Fest. And he currently curates the Boulder, Denver metro area poetry calendar, which is just an absolute effing service to the Front Range. Eric.
Don't bomb the children. For 14 million or more players. Set up. Each player holds the other's lives in their hands. Some players hold many. Others hold a few. None hold 0. Player lives are distributed according to wealth, social standing, and charisma. Player deaths are similarly distributed. This is your trigger warning, y'all. If you need to get out, go now. How to play. Don't bomb the children. Don't massacre a rave. Don't turn soldiers into cops. Don't blanket the sky in rockets. Don't level the hospital district. Don't take civilian hostages. Don't bring Uzis to a rock fight. Don't parade the naked dead. Don't cage humans in a combat zone. Don't build tunnels in place of bomb shelters. Don't form coalitions with convicted racists. Don't use corpses as bargaining chips. Don't block water, electricity, and food supplies. Don't kill a grandmother and post the pictures onto her Facebook using her own phone. Don't tell 1 million people they have 24 hours to evacuate. Don't rape the women and the men. Don't target journalists. Don't hunt the innocent door to door. Don't evict entire cities. Don't burn families inside their homes. Don't blame them for what you do. Don't blame them for what you do. Don't justify murder. Don't celebrate catastrophe. Don't call it politics. Don't call it necessary. Don't call it national defense. Don't call it decolonization. Don't call it a rescue mission. Don't call it freedom fighting. Don't call it holy. Don't call it God. The first player to die of old age makes everyone the winner. Jeffrey, can I have permission to go like 3 minutes over time?
Claro que sí, mi amor.
The past 8 months have been a hell. This isn't the poem. It's been really hard for me to be here these past few weeks. Spacewalk with me. My people, it's time to go. This planet doesn't want us. There are moons with no bodies. We could be nobody again. No shelters to hide in, no missiles to intercept. Put down the iron chopsticks, they'll break soon anyway. The white stones aren't worth this. Back into the desert. We've done it before. Safer if they can't find us anyway. We'll draw water from the asteroids without splitting the rock. Good fences make mortal enemies. Let's put the Kuiper Belt between us. Beetlejuice is beautiful this time of year. Like the red shore at sunset, the lovers burning. Don't worry about the book. We'll write a new history. God promised us a home, well then let him deliver. This shadowed crescent is wax anyway. The earth spins backwards and we are all barbarians again. Song, let them take it, Yeats said. Who knows what mana falls on Kepler 22b? Not bullets, not bombs, maybe beats and glitter. We clearly can't have those here. Our cousins voted Republican, and now we all have to die. Xavier was wrong. We were mutants to them before we ever had powers. Come on, let's get the fuck out of here. There's a hyperspace gate on the dark side of Callisto. These Roman streets we bled on aren't worth this. The sky is red enough at night anyway, with its 10,000 flares. It's total war or another 2,000 years of exile, and I think we could use a vacation. There could be animals without hooves, fins, scales, or stomachs. Won't that excite the rabbis? I hear there are bioluminescent jungles in the Lagoon Nebula. We can pretend the rings around our planet are the walls of the old city when they were brand new, before Babylon tore them down, before Suleiman the Magnificent filled them with arrow slits. I have one more poem. I don't think I can be trusted to read this on the mic. I wrote this in Swani's manifesto class for BAFS, Beyond Academia Free School, at the Second Sunday Library Workshop. Hear, O West, I want to be brave. I want to say myself right where it souls. I don't want to cry in my cave like a stone. I want to live in the street like a lamp. I want to be seen and known. You think you do, but you don't. Knowing has become a thinking feeling, a fleeting fleeing, as if your skin didn't touch, as if you couldn't scrape the sidewalk and its wounds. All of us caves bumping off each other's shores. You think you haven't, but you have. Erased the beach from the beachhead. Erased the storm from the score. I want to replace I want with I am, with be. I want to reread life as a triumph, not a trial. Can't anyone see what's happening? How the planet turns red and we turn with it. A poem is not a meme. A person is not a wave file. We don't know how to talk anymore because the language talks for us. I want to say what I mean. What I mean is, I am a Jew. To be honest, I don't think you really know what that means. I don't think you mean to not know, and I won't blame you if you do. If I don't know you, let's share a falafel. I like mine belafa im charif bechamutzim, salat bechips. How about you? Ice-cold, fresh-squeezed pomegranates and hand-picked dates. We'll smoke the nargila with vanilla, shisha, jasmine, and rose, salted in Mediterranean. You swim to my terrors, and I'll swim to yours. I know it's not that easy. Know me. If you aren't afraid to know, if it doesn't tangle in your branches like citrus or break them with snow. Winters in Europe were hard after the desert, after Rome. My exiled ancestors fled east, choosing life among strangers over conversion by the sword. The Crusades, the Inquisition, the Russian Civil War, expulsion from England in 1290, France in 1394, Spain in 1492, Vienna in 1670, Louisiana Tennessee, Mississippi, and Kentucky in 1724 and 1862. Lithuania, Moscow, Martinique, Milan, Hungary, Germany. Tell me, where is it exactly that you would like me to go? And that's just my family. The Ashkenazim. White-faced, pogrom passing. For the Mizrahim, 2,500 years in 22 Arab countries ended abruptly in 900,000 ethnically cleansed in the 20th century alone. Of course, they went home. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. This was supposed to be a manifesto. What have I learned? Be brave. Say yourself. Write where it souls. Live in the street like a lamp. Don't cry in a cave like a stone. See and be seen. Know and be known. Walk with me on this scorched beach. Hold my hand through this storm. Oseh Shalom B'Romav. Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Ve'imru. Amen.
Oh, Allen Ginsberg, what dreams of you we have tonight. One more round of applause for Eric, for Bo, for Ben, for Caleb, for Charlie, for Jason, for Isaac, for Rachel. Please join me in thanking our comrades of summer, the PAC crew. You will have heard of a thing called the Summer Writing Program at Naropa. It is a space of provocation and pedagogy both. Tomorrow night, in this very space, it's a ship. It's a ship of poetry and other experiments with language and feelings. Other works with language and feelings. Andrea Abikaram will read, as well as Monica Jimenez, Valerie Schoen, and one other person. And Stella motherfucking Corso. Yeah. Sorry. I, like Naropa, am 50 years old, and so sometimes my memory fails me. The rest of the evening is yours. Shannon, all right, so thanks for the reminder. All right, so tomorrow, as umbrellas follow rain, the solstice this year follows Juneteenth, and people will be gathering at 5 a.m. to see the sunrise. You can join those early risers if you choose. Oh, here in the greens.